First of all, Merry Christmas from myself, Pep and Dom, and welcome to the latest edition of one of our videos on the channel. We're today having lunch at Tavola Calda in Peterborough. Really a fantastic Italian restaurant. Basically, as you can see, I've got gnocchi, Dom's got something beef going on, but we'll talk about that later on. We're here today to talk about our cars, talk about the year that's gone by, the highs and lows, and all the things we love about Alfa Romeos and other Italian cars that we have as well. So, speak to you in a sec. Right, first things first, fantastic meal, fantastic gnocchi. You must come to Tavola Calda in Rivergate, Peterborough if you want decent Italian food. Anyway, right, so my cars, two Zoe Yellows, Spiders, 916s, both twin spark, and I've got a 3-litre V6 Spider as well in silver, and an Alfa 595, and of course half of the X19 with Dom. So maintenance-wise, I call it Zoe 1, I've had her for 3-4 years I think. She needs a cam belt. She's into year 4 without a cam belt change, so I've took a little bit of a chance, but I'm taking it in January to the guys at Alfa Workshop to look after me on that one. All 3 cars need the aircon looking at. I've dealt without aircon, to be honest, but I'm just one of these guys that wants to get things done, so I suspect that I'll probably need a bit of piping changing in all 3 of them. And I think with my first Zoe, I've had this on and off roof leak issue, and I've got it down to a little bit of a basically seal on this side, which has just perished at the end. And actually what I'm going to do over the winter is stick a little bit of pretty much bicycle inner tube on the end of it to pack it out, and hopefully that'll stop leaking. We do these things. I've used super glue as well. So Zoe 1, pretty good, just cam belt and roof to sort out. Zoe 2, as I call it, or her. CV boots leaking, that needs to get done before the MOT. Indicators don't self-cancel, we know that's a problem generally with the 916s. Got a spare kind of mechanism to replace it with. And of course, not of course, but the brakes are a bit spongy, so I think I'm going to change the brake fluid on it, change the thermostat as well, so she does get a little bit hot very quickly. And that's it. And one of the biggest problems I have with it, and I know a lot of 916 owners also suffer from this, is battery drain. And I've sourced it to the interior light. It just drains the battery. I'm not sure what's going on there. If anyone can help on that, do let us know. But I think I'm going to take it into an auto electrician to have a proper look at that. Basically, I've disconnected the light and the battery don't drain anymore. The V6, so we're in that today. Wow, I mean, that car, you can see I'm smiling talking about it. I don't think I'd be without my twin sparks, but the V6 is a different animal. There's something about that engine, it's just silky smooth, the power's always there. I've enjoyed it. I've only had it on the road 2 or 3 months, and it's just getting better and better each time I drive it. I've had it outdoors, so obviously it's been -5, -6, and I took the cover off it today, and the actual cover that I protect the roof with started to tear, so it's been that icy. But it started on the button, iced on the inside, as we all know, our Spiders, they do that because they're letting a lot of condensation. But yeah, started on the button, drove it down here. Dom was in the passenger seat, scared him a few times. I could see him grip into it, but really good, fantastic car. In terms of maintenance for that, needs to be undersealed. I bought some wing braces from Gary, so thank you Gary at Totally Alpha. They need to be put on. I think that will just give me a little bit more of feeling in the front end, because we know how heavy that V6 is and it just feels a bit wayward at times. Need to respray the bonnet, as all of us suffer from bonnet chips on our 916s. And I want to also adjust the bumper. The bumper's just dropped a little bit. So that's that for the Alphas. The Abarth, I mean, that car, it's pretty much, I use it 3 or 4 times a week. I just ring the hell out of that car. I just enjoy it. I've curbed the alloy. Yeah, I know, won't go into that. So I need to kind of tidy the alloy up. But other than that, she's had 2 new tyres on the front at about £90 each, which is a bargain. Found them online. Nothing to do with that car. I just enjoy it, and it's just my go-to, and I just want a lot of fun. So what we learned about our cars, and then obviously mine in particular, I think with the 916s, the Spiders, most times the roofs leak. Now, that's that, I'll leave that. But when they're not leaking and not working, generally speaking, there's 3 reasons why the roof does not work. Number 1 is going to be the cog, which snaps, and you can actually turn it over so it uses the other side, or you can just get a stainless steel one online, or from Gary at Totally Alpha. Number 2, the cable just lodges itself, so you just need to get that corrected and put back in. Or the third reason is the hydraulic fluid. Lots of us forget to check the hydraulic fluid, and I tell you what, 9 times out of 10, the reason why your roof stops working is because there's no more fluid left in the car. I've also learned for the V6 that GT multi-spoke alloys don't fit. Well, they do if you buy spacers. So they're cheaper than, I do like obviously teledials, but a set of teledials these days, 800 quid odd. So the GT multi-spokes rather are much cheaper, and in my opinion actually suit the Spider better. But they won't go on the V6 unless you get spacers. And I bought 20mm spacers. I think they're a bit too fat, a bit too big. I've just got some 5mm literally delivered this morning, which I'm going to put on over the winter, and hopefully that'll do the trick. I've also learned this a long time ago, and so did Dom. If you want to adjust your seat in your 916, please do it when the ignition's off. I think we all know that. We'll leave that there, because you all know what happens if you don't. And the final thing the final thing about our 916 is that, again, I think all of us go through and understand very early on, is the lights are like candles. I'm sure Dom will tell you more about that, but do change the lights, because you just can't see a thing at all in the evenings. My worst experience in my Spiders, I haven't really had any. I think the first one, when I first bought my Spider and drove it back from Lincoln, there was a big hole in the exhaust. I didn't know that. I just thought that's how they sounded. So it just sounded like a tractor all the way home. So that was one thing which was worrying me, but we got that sorted. Generally speaking, don't take them to a car wash unless you want to swim inside the cockpit, because you do get, I don't care what anyone says, the odd bit of water coming through the roof when there's a jet wash on it. And I think the V6 actually, the worst experience in that was coming back from Auto Lusso a couple of months ago. It started to bottom out when I was going over roundabouts, and since then I've discovered that the actual bump stops were just trashed. So I ended up changing all the bump stops, and while I was at it, springs and shocks, and do you know what, it drives like a completely different car now. Right, my best journey, it has to be really, I've not been very far this year, but again, the Spider V6, Dom and I went to Beryl's Cafe, I think it's somewhere near France, I know it's miles away. It took us about 3 hours to get there. It was an amazing journey in the V6. Up until then, I think I'd done about 40, 50 miles in the car. I was a little bit apprehensive, but do you know what? That car just was an absolute blast. Didn't let me down at all, behaved impeccably. And to be honest, I fell in love with my V6 on that day. That really is the best journey out of all of the cars I own. Okay, what would I swap any of my cars for? Difficult one. I think, no, he's nodding his head. I may be persuaded to swap one of my Zoes, but it would have to be for pretty much, and I know Dom would agree, 147 GTA. Has to have the tan inserts in the interior, or even the grey inserts. Not too bothered on colour actually. I do like the Norvala white ones. I think they look stunning with the 18-inch jet fins. Other than the 147 GTA, I've got a thing for sprints, Alfa sprints, and actually I like them in white. I love the green piping and the green carpets. That's the car I want, and they're sort of fetching sort of 8 to 12 grand now. That would be. But if I had that car, I'd need to garage it properly. You can't just leave that outdoors. Going away from Alfas, I've always been a bit of a Fiat man deep down inside, and I've got a soft spot for the 127 Sport or the 127 GT. I'd love to see one of them. There's only about, I think, 4 or 5 left in the country. And the 130TC, the Strada, probably my car of the year. That car was absolutely stunning. I fell in love with that car. There's just something about that car, the 2-litre twin cam, twin carb. What an Italian machine, simple as that. And I think other than that, I do like the 124 coupes as well. Bit of an older car, but quite a stunning 70s machine. But the car that obviously I kind of got me into Italian motoring all those years ago was the Fiat Coupe 20 valve turbo. I'm always still kind of yearning to get that car back. The Sprint Blue with the tan leather. So they're the kind of cars I would sort of perhaps trade in for, but I think the V6 is a keeper, the Abarth's a keeper. They're going electric now, so they won't make them anymore after next year, and it's the top of the range, 595 180 brake. It's a bundle of fun. Why would I sell that? And I think, you know, I'd probably keep both Zoes. I think I'm the only person in the country that owns 2 of them. At the moment there's 51 MOT'd. or taxed rather. And I think when we get to the height of the summer, there's about 70 odd. But yeah, I'm going to keep them all. They're not life-changing amounts of money if I sold them anyway, so why would I sell them?
So maintenance on my car's Alfa Romeo GTV Twin Spark. It will need a service. MOT is coming up in March, so we'll probably do it all about the same time. Bushes on the front near suspension on the control arm, they're going to need doing. The arm probably needs doing as well. It's a bit of a knock, not an unpleasant one, just a little noise, just over sort of little bumps and stuff. And rear spring pan on the near side rear, that's creaking a little bit. But it's bushes. Took it to Gary at Mark at Northants Alfa. He's took it on the ramps, got his pry biter on there, and give it a good squig around. So the bushes all look a little bit worn and a bit horrible. So that's about it for the Twin Spark. It's the daily car, so it's never going to look fantastic. It looks magnificent inside, leather, and the interior is absolutely beautiful. But unfortunately, it's a red Alfa, so it's flaky paint on the outside. It's a magnificent number of different colours of red and pink and other colours too. So that's it for the GTV. The 156 V6, it's really finishing touches like the switch for the mirror control doesn't work. Now, I've changed the mirrors because the ones that were on it were knackered, frankly. I've bought another 156 which I've got as a breaker, and I've changed the switch over, and that hasn't worked either. So it's either between the wiring between there and the door. Maybe somebody suggested it might be the door connector. So we'll have to give it a try that. It's not the end of the world. I'm the only one that drives it, and the mirrors are in the right place. Silly little stuff on the inside. It's screwing in a bit better. It's bits of interior trim fitting properly. All of the major mechanical work was done on that car by Mark at Northants, and what a brilliant job he did, turning effectively a car that had been off the road for more than a decade into a proper machine. What a machine it is. Spider has not been anywhere this year. It needs the differential rebuilding and the half shafts fixing. So I haven't used it really for that reason, that it just makes that horrible whiny noise when you're driving it, and it just drives me crackers. So I'm hoping that Charlie Skinner up in Cumbria at some point in the new year will be able to do it for me, and I can use the car again. I'm looking forward to a journey to Italy in 2023. I'm eyeing up possibly Mille Miglia in June, or another trip to Milan and the factory at Arese. But I'm desperate to get the Spider over to Europe again, because that's really where it comes to its best. It's left-hand drive, it suits the roads there. Everything's on the right side of the road, obviously, being a left-hand drive and driving on the right. So that's it for the Spider. So Fiat X19, which Pep and I bought this year from Mas Marseilla. It was a car that was quite literally underneath our noses for all of those years, and it's only through a connection with a guy I was at school with who said, "Oh, my uncle's got an old Fiat on his driveway that he wants to get rid of." As it turned out, he didn't really want to get rid of it, but we went and met him, went to see the car, and eventually he agreed to sell it to us. There's one condition, that he gets the number plate back off it when we get it MOT'd and taxed. So Maz, we will get it done, but for now it's at Joe the Maltese Welders being welded. It's not terrible, it's just a car that's been sat on a driveway for 10 years and it's picked up the odd little hole here and there. So Joe's done a wonderful job filling in some of those for us. There's still plenty more to do. So maybe we get it MOT'd in the summer and we get to spin it around to a few shows. It's a wonderful little thing, 29,000 original miles, 1987 Bertone X19 in a wonderful blue. So look out for that at some shows. What a great little car that's going to be. So what have I learnt about my GTV? It really hates the cold weather. It always starts, but as you guys will all know, that the locks freeze up, and I've just basically decided not to lock the car. I've just basically decided to leave it open. The passenger side is much easier to open where I live. That catches the sun a little bit earlier in the morning, so open up the passenger side door, open up the driver's door, and then I can get in and get out. But that's it really with the GTV. It's just the locks. It's got its usual issues of it lets in lots of condensation and moisture, but that's it. Other than that, that's what I've learned about the GTV. What have I learned about the V6 156? it's probably the Alfa Romeo that I love the most. I've had 12 Alfas in my history. That is the one that I love the most, without a doubt. The Series 4 Spider I've had for 12 years, and I do love that car, but the V6, absolutely fell in love with it. What a beautiful machine. So that's what I've learned about the 156, is that I'm totally and utterly in love with it. What have I learned about the Spider? Well, not very much of what I know already, other than how incredible it is mechanically, because I've never used it this year, it hasn't been anywhere. But every November the insurance renews and I've got to take some photographs for the insurance company for the agreed value. Popped the battery on, stuck the key in it, and it fired up first time. Drove it out of the garage, took the photographs and put it back in. I wasn't expecting it to fire up quite as easily. In years gone past, it's always fired up beautifully. But I was thinking when it was particularly cold, it might just not fancy it very much, but click on the button, absolutely magnificent. So what I've learned about the Spider is that it's absolutely magnificent mechanically, and long may that continue. My worst experience was the 156 LS Speeds that Alexander Lever bought from me earlier on this year. Before he bought the car, I told him that I had a slight issue with it not selecting a gear, and lucky for me, it turned out to be a few very, very cheap relays, but I was at a busy motorway interchange and 4-lane roundabout. I'm at the front of the queue, lots of cars behind me, and it wouldn't select a gear. So I had to get out of the car while it's still running, obviously, so I've got the power steering still working, pushing it across 4 lanes of a busy motorway, getting honked at, getting beeped out, and probably getting laughed at by a fair number of people so I can get it to the side of the road. After a little while, 5 or 10 minutes or so, it selected a gear and it got me home no problem. But that was a pretty hairy moment in the Alfa this year. Best journey, 1,500 miles in 5 days in Europe with my friend Giles. He lives in Basel in Switzerland, so we made from Calais to Basel, which is 800 kilometres. We left Calais and we were on the banks of the river, can't remember what it is, in Basel, about 7 hours later, so only an average of 70 miles an hour or so, but we stopped 3 times for fuel, obviously, and for lunch and for various bits and bobs, the odd bits of traffic. The car was just an absolute flying machine. 130 on the Autobahn in Germany was absolutely fantastic. That was my limit of where I wanted to go with the car, although it had more to give. The top speed on that car is 143 according to the book, and I think for a 24-year-old car that V6 engine was probably ready to give every 143 of those miles per hour, but it was me clinging on and getting white-knuckled that really didn't fancy much more of that. Loved it around the mountains. It's not fabulous throwing it into corners and hitting the brakes really hard. It's got the original brakes on it, which aren't fantastic, but generally, what a machine. That was a magnificent journey. What would I swap any of my cars for? Well, we'll start with the V6. Never, ever, 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 ever. That's never getting swapped for anything. That's just too wonderful a machine, too rare in its specification, and even when it looked terrible and I took it to some car shows, lots of people were looking at that car and saying, I really, really love that car. Where did you find that? Well, at the bottom of someone's garden is the answer, and Mark at North Alfa did a magnificent job, not only taking off the other bits of the car that were absolutely knackered, but then replacing it and doing such a fantastic job. So thank you to you, Mark. That was an excellent job, and you'll be seeing my GTV for its MOT and its repair work a bit later on in the year. The Twin Spark, again, I can't swap that for anything. It's my daily car, and it will run until it doesn't run anymore. And that'll be a really sad day, because that was the car that really got me back into actually driving Alfa Romeos every day properly about 6 years ago. Having lived in London, I didn't really have a car for 6 years, and then had a Merc CLK, which was a good car for what I needed it for, which was getting up and down the motorways, going to exhibitions and events that I was running. But you never really fall in love with a 2.2 diesel CLK, and I wrote it off and decided then that I was going to buy an Alfa Romeo, and the GTV came into my life. So it will stay with me until it doesn't work anymore. And at that point, it will be a fabulous car for helping others to stay on the road, because the interior in that car is absolutely magnificent, and there's still lots of really, really good parts on it. So GTV is not going anywhere. The Spider, no, that's not going anywhere either. So this swaps for me is quite a poor section really, because why would I, frankly? The car is appreciating in value every year. It appreciates in quality and style. Every time I look at it, I can't really believe that I own it. Thank you, Andy King from Bristol, who sold it to me all those years ago. We're still in touch, and he likes and comments on whenever I post a picture of the car. So would I swap it? No. If someone had me buy the short and curlies and said you really had to do something about it, probably a 147 GTA with all of the upgrades done. I watched a wonderful video on YouTube, and it just looks fantastic. It's kind of everything that the 156 V6 is, and a little bit more. So if I really had to get pushed, probably a 147 GTA. But I don't think the Spider's really going anywhere. So we wanted to finish with a few thank yous to all the people that have really helped us with our cars this year. So Mark at Northants Alfa, he was pretty much sick of the sight of me, I think, by the time the 156 was about ready to leave. But he did a magnificent job, Mark. Thanks very much. Oliver Yarrow for helping me out in my hour of need when I thought I cracked a sump while I was driving the car in North Yorkshire. He got me a replacement very quickly. As it turned out, it wasn't that, but I've now got one in the garage if I should need one in the future. Nathan at Clover Breakers, you've always supplied me with really good parts when I've needed them, so thank you very much. And also Jamie and Ben at Alfa Workshop, you've looked after my Spider for the 12 years that I've owned the car, so thank you for everything that you've done. And anybody else who I've missed, where I bought parts off, or has helped me on the forums when I've had a bit of a problem, which we all do every now and again. So I really appreciate it, thank you.
Absolutely, I agree with all of those things, and just to add a couple of other people to that as well. Gary at Totally Alpha, always a great source of information and parts, obviously. The guys at Auto Lusso, I sort of mix my cars between Auto Lusso and Alfa Workshop, and again, really good service and expertise. And Neil as well from alphaspareparts.com. Loves his Alphas, sells a few, and that's really good. And I think to finish, Dom and I, just to remind people, we have 916 spare parts. If anyone wants any bits and pieces, we're sort of constantly breaking those. And Dom's got a collection of 156 bits and pieces as well. So all's left to say now is Merry Christmas to everybody, Happy New Year, and we'll see you at some shows next year.